Now greetings to the world, voice of the one smelly alongside Dogsdie and Yoshifett. Loifimos! F.U. Latinacons. We must make this show, pinch off this show and get this podcast done. Then we will take your ears and make it boom them. All up in your face and just in case those other podcasts run. Those guys Smelly and Yoshi make it boom them. We must make this show, pinch off the show and get this podcast done. Then we will take your ears and make it boom them. All up in your face and just in case those other podcasts run. Those guys Smelly and Yoshi make it boom them.
Welcome, one and all, to episode 93 of the BigRedBarel Boom! I am one of a triforce of hosts, Dogsdie and Hot Cars.
That's not how the Triforce works.
Is it not?
Right, guys?
I like that.
It's pretty good.
That's good. We're excited for this episode because it's going to be a Star Wars love fest and a very objective review of Star Wars The Last Jedi. We have a few other things that we do want to talk about first, and of course, one of those is meeting our hosts, because I'm sure we have a lot of new listeners every week of our weekly episodic episodes of Episodial Times. So we're going to go to Jolly Rogers out there in California, Yoshifett.
That was my nickname in high school for weird reasons.
So jolly.
Yeah, so we will be discussing Star Wars in an objectively unobjective way. So if you don't agree with what I say about Star Wars in this episode and you listen to this episode, don't at me, as the kids say. Or I will drag you, as the kids also don't say anymore, but...
They do? They don't say that?
I will drag you. I'll drag you all across all of Twitter.
Did they at one point?
It's still a thing. I mean, at least according to BuzzFeed, and that's like how I know what's cool with the kids, you know?
So if you disagree with somebody, you drag them across Twitter?
Dragging just means, like, it's just a new way of saying, like, hating on or being mad about. Like, it'll be, a BuzzFeed article will be like, so-and-so said something on Twitter and now they're being dragged for it. You know, it's just like, it's basically like hated on or whatever. And that's my word of the week. I don't know.
All right. Yoshi did a BuzzFeed speak of the week.
BuzzFeed word of the week.
BuzzFeed feed of the week. Yeah, exactly. I'm here in California. I'm being Californian. I bought a Switch for my daughter / me, really, for Christmas. We'll talk about that later, though, I'm sure. That was kind of a highlight, you know, getting the new Nintendo thing. She loves the Nintendo stuff, so.
And she's playing Odyssey or Breath?
She has defeated Odyssey, which made me very proud. It only took her about a week.
Wow.
She's really close to defeating Splatoon 2 as well, the single-player version. So, Breath of the Wild, you know, we've had that on the Wii U since it first came out, so it's kind of old hat, though she really does want me to get it for the Switch, so we can play it on there and take it in the car and stuff. And it's a good enough game. I'll definitely... I've bought way worse games more than once, so I will buy Breath of the Wild twice at some point. It's just not happening right this second like she wants it to.
Real quickly, what's the most pleasantly surprising thing about Mario?
Oh, I don't want to be too specific about anything, but it's the pleasant surprise about Mario games, and I mean, this is not a surprise. Well, one part that's not the surprise is what I think you said this, is that Mario 3D games just have this polish of tight controls, the jumping, everything is just, it feels right. In terms of like the surprises, they're like by level pretty much. Each level has something that you're like, what? That's in a Mario game? It's very surprising, whimsical. And I love how Nintendo takes like such a simple concept. They're like, well, what if Mario's hat was alive and could possess people or something? And then now we're going to make a whole game about that. And then we're going to infuse some like quasi J-pop songs into it. It's like, it's just nuts. Really? And totally. Oh yeah. I think the most impressive fun part of the game is New Donk City, which you've no doubtedly seen, because that was like the first thing they showed, which is a city with real looking people that Mario runs around in. And it's just funny and fun and interesting. And there are so many surprises. I don't really want to give anything specific away.
That sounds fun. That's a console seller.
Probably is, yeah.
I was very impressed with the one level I played at Best Buy, and one of those bullet bills shot at me, and so I decided I needed to throw my hat at it, and then I turned it into Bullet Bill, and I was able to fly over to another platform, and it was really great.
Yes, and that's like kind of one of the consistently surprising fun things about it is the way that when you do take control of very familiar, Mario enemies and use them to solve puzzles, it's just great. I mean, because, you're like, oh, I'm a Goomba now. What can I do? Oh, I can stack on other Goombas? This is cool. It's like you just figure out the different mechanisms they were able to use. And then like a fun little thing is, I don't know if you've done this, but when you throw your hat out, your hat can be stationary, just like kind of spinning in the air. And then you can run and jump on it to like jump on the hat to give you a farther jump.
No, I haven't seen that.
So it's like that starts becoming a fun little thing. And then if you play it detached from the console and you use the separate Joy-Cons or whatever they call, I don't know what they call them, throwing the hat is as simple as shaking one of them. So you just like shake to throw it, and then you shake it again, and it will like home in on something else. And you shake them all crazy, and then the hat spins around you and protects you. Like, so the motion sensitive part, it really helps the game a lot, which I never thought I'd be saying about motion sensitive controls. But anyway.
Awesome.
Good stuff, yeah.
Love it.
Our second host is Smelly Pirate.
Yeah.
He's out in Georgia. Talk to the good people.
Hey, everybody. I am doing great. Having fun. Just working. I'm making my wife a sofa table. Are you guys familiar?
A sofa table?
Surely you've both made your wives sofa tables already.
Surely.
I must be the last on this train. Yeah, when you have a sofa and you don't want to put it against the wall, but you also don't have enough space to really move it really far off the wall, you move it about 12 inches off the wall and you build a sofa table to go behind it that you put things upon which...
I have a question.
Yes.
I think I already know the answer, but why do you have to build it? Can't you just buy something and stick it in there?
It would that it were that easy.
Because I would never build something for anyone, including my wife.
You might. You wouldn't build your wife.
No, I would.
Weird science.
Look at that. That was an unclear modifier. You're right. I won't build my wife, and I will not build anything for her either, unless it's like a cake or something.
Well, if your wife asked you to, you'd probably still say no, right?
My wife would never ask me to build something. She would just build it and be like, look what I built, you moron.
Stupid. Why can't you do this, dummy?
No, she would be like, my wife knows me well enough to know that if she does make me build something, she'll just have to build it over again because I'll do it wrong.
My wife it's not that I won't do it wrong. She either doesn't know that I will do it wrong or she doesn't care that I'm going to do it wrong. But I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it wrong. And it's going to be okay because it's going to be wedged between a wall and a sofa, and it's going to do what it's supposed to do, which is be a platform upon which you put things.
Samusfett is not comfortable with things being that, how shall we say, imperfect?
How you say unusable?
How you say IKEA? I don't know. I just like the notion of building something.
Yeah.
I haven't built anything in like 20 years since I like broke things at my dad's boatyard.
Yeah, I mean, as it turns out, it's kind of a cool thing. There's some accomplishment to it. But let's not get too far into that. More interestingly, Dogsdie forcibly made me play PUBG with him.
I did.
This was a vintage Dogsdie moment. We were on the phone as two brothers. And we talked about a number of things, one of which was PUBG, a number of other things. And then at the end of the phone call, he goes, all right, well, this is a really good phone call. I'm going to send you $30 on Venmo, and you're going to buy PUBG so we can play together. Bye. And then he hung up. And then about 10 seconds later, I hear the little cha-ching from Venmo, and he had sent me $30 so I could buy it on Steam. And he told me, I know that there is 0% chance that you will play with me if I don't send you $30. And there's maybe like a 5% chance that you'll play with me if I do send you $30. So he sent me $30. And then he shamed me into actually using it for the purpose for which he sent it to me. And I downloaded the game and installed it. And he and I have played like 3 rounds of PUBG.
We have.
Did you get chicken dinner, winner yet?
I didn't get any chicken dinner.
We played 3 duos. We got crushed once. The other, we killed a guy. Remember? We killed a guy.
I killed a guy.
Yeah. You should probably...
With a trident.
You should probably lay low. Yeah, we did okay a couple rounds, but it was so funny because the first, you buy someone a game and then you're playing with them and you just want it to be very fun. And the very first game, we parachute, and we didn't see a single soul for 20 minutes. No, we just ran in the desert.
Just a lot of running.
Isn't this great?
It was like from Link's house up to the Hyrule Castle in what is that one that's the best Zelda game ever?
Breath of the
Link
Wild?
to the Past.
No. Yeah, no, not that one.
Ocarina.
What's the third best?
No, that is
Ocarina.
the best. That's the best Zelda game. There's no way around it. That's like maybe the best game ever. But
okay, in Ocarina, you remember how it took like a half hour just to run on foot from Link's house to the Hyrule Castle?
Man, Ocarina. Yeah. There's no such thing as a Ocarina. I'm so done with that joke.
I'm not joking. There's no jokes.
There's a joke.
Anyway,
there's a joke.
We ran for a good long time, and it was enjoyable because I was.
Oh man!
I was talking to my brother, and so we played a couple rounds, and it was fun. And we're gonna play again after I finish my dissertation.
You can add us on Steam if you'd like to play with us. Dogsdie is my handle, and what's your Smelly Parrot?
I think it's Smelly Pirate.
I think you're right.
There's a chance.
I have one winner chicken dinner under my belt, and like 3 top 10 finishes, and it's just fun. It's a really good game.
That's awesome.
It's a good game. Fun game.
Lastly, let me tell you 30 seconds about VR. I got a VR headset with a new computer I bought, and I'm blown away by how much of a game changer it feels like. It's just freaking great. It was midnight, and I came and sat down. My wife had just fallen asleep, and I said, I'm just going to play for a little bit before I go to sleep. And I put the headset on, and I did some tilt brush where you just paint in a 3D space with different brushes and different tools and stuff. And then I shut that down, and I turned on Google Earth, and I spent some time flying around Google Earth. I visited my childhood home in Santa Barbara, and then or in Goleta, I should say. And then I fired up Space Pirate Trainer, where you're shooting guns at these bots that come in the air. And I took the goggles off, and it was 4 a.m. And I had spent 4 hours of my adult human life playing this thing, and it just I didn't want to stop. Other than it was kind of hurting my eyes.
Small price to pay, right?
Yeah, exactly. My vision and livelihood. Every adult friend that I've had come over, and childhood friend of my children's, the first thing they do when we walk in the house is I got to check out this thing, and then it's like what people want to do. It's incredible. It's amazing. I think it's even more. This is going to sound stupid because the Wii wasn't game changing, but it feels more game changing than the Wii was. When you first played the Wii and like bowling worked, and you were like, "Holy crap, this actually works!" That was cool,
right?
And it stayed cool for a while. This feels more than that. This feels like this is where the next level of gaming is going to be. And I don't know about interaction for productivity purposes, but certainly the drawing app, I don't enjoy drawing or art at all. And I really, really love this drawing app. It's amazing.
I don't like art at all. That's one of my favorite quotes from you ever.
Yeah.
We went over to a friend's house for movie night last night. They have, they think they have a water core, but it's trying to be a water core, but
cute.
it doesn't have an elliptical in it. Anyway, so we went over there and watched a movie, and the kids were playing games and stuff because we watched The Mummy, the new one with Tom Cruise, which was kind of not that great, but much creepier than the original Mummy.
Oh, good.
But anywho, so I went upstairs after the movie was done, and Zara, my 5-year-old, Pale Dogs Die in Hot Cars. I don't know. She was playing Job Simulator on the VR, the Vive that they have.
Bitches Die, I think, would be her, wouldn't it?
Oh gosh, she's cute.
Yeah, she is.
So she was playing Job Simulator, and it was amazing to me that she didn't have it. Nobody told her what she had to do.
Right.
She just did it.
Yeah.
And she was good at it. She's grabbing cartridges, and I want to do the Office one now. And I'm like, why don't you do the chef one? That sounds fun and more to your gender role. And no, I'm kidding. But she was like, no, I want to do the Office one. So it was really funny. And then I turned around to go to the kitchen, and I hear this thwack.
Yeah.
And she had run into the wall.
Yeah. Oh, that's the best.
This is where the VR thing is going to get entertaining for me, when other people are doing it and I'm with them, basically. I've waited years to draw penises on people's foreheads while they play VR. It's something I've looked forward to so much. Or to hear about all the injuries that people sustain while they think they're they're in a job simulator. Is that one of the games?
It's like one of the games, apparently.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. I can't wait for Teacher Simulator. That's going to be the
It's a really popular game, actually, which is
just really sad.
Right.
I'm going to escape my life by playing a job simulator. That makes sense.
Next up is Star Wars on the Boo! Yoshi, you've got a word for us to learn other than drag.
I'm going to give you a weird word that's mainly used for rhetorical analysis. Polysyndeton. Have fun.
Polysyndeton?
Polysyndeton. Or actually, Polysyndeton is another way to pronounce it, but either way.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, it didn't sound familiar until you said Polysyndeton.
That's close to the right spelling, Mr. Mount, but it's with an O.
Oh, okay. It sounds like something that
and a D.
It sounds like one of Fletch's on-the-spot aliases. What's your name, sir? Mr. Dr. Polysyndeton.
Polysyndeton.
Yeah,
John
it does.
Coctoson.
It's a dumb English term, and there it is.
I love it.
All right. We got it. Polysyndeton.
Yep.
Teach us the ways of the street, Smelly.
Yeah, so for your Thug Speak today, if you want to fight somebody, if you just want to challenge somebody to a fight, whereas in the 1700s, you might take your glove off and slap them across the face. In 2017, you might tell them to run you the ones.
Run you the ones.
And this happens right before you throw hands, right?
Right before you do the thing.
Because that's a thing, right? Still, I think. Throw hands.
Run you the ones. What is the ones referring to?
Well, you're going to ask that, and I'm not going to know the answer, but but you're just going to say, yo, what's up? What's up? You got a problem? Run me the ones. Or let's run the ones. See what happens.
Fair. All right. Run the ones.
Smelly, you're going to ask me that, and I'm not going to have an answer. That could be the title of my memoir about me and my wife, if I ever write one. Because inevitably what happens, I don't know if this happens to you guys too, I will mention something that I heard that I thought would be of interest to her.
Right.
And it will be followed up with like 85 questions that I have no idea. I'm like, look, I just read the headline. I have no idea how long they've been married. I have no idea what the name of their 2-year-old son is. I don't know if he used to date Elizabeth Shue. I don't know any of these things. So just Google it for you.
Yep.
Let me Google that for you.
This happened to me multiple times tonight in Interstellar. Brittany was like, so why was he pushing the books from behind the bookshelf? And I'd be like, because he wanted to get her to come. But how did he know that? Like, you can't ask me why questions during a movie. I don't understand them that well. I just
yeah. I'm not going to respond well to those either.
That happens with great frequency.
I'm ill-prepared. Tell me a category of which you want to learn a word about.
Yeah, I mean, are you all out of improv speak?
I don't care about improv anymore.
That was a rich.
It was pretty rich.
Source.
Did we do Canadian Cross?
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
Well, I don't know.
Not a chance.
Did we? No, Canadian Cross.
No.
All right.
Is that a sex move? Or is this now a sex move?
A Canadian Cross is it is. Yes, it is. You apologize.
Don't you love when they call them sex moves, though? That's my favorite. Like 12 sex moves that will have your man screaming. And, like, on Cosmo, they'll have, like, things like that. And I'm like, a sex move? What is that?
Canadian Cross is a thing in improv where you cross the stage as a background character, adding ambiance. So if you and another person are starting on the stage and you set up the scene that you're at the state fair, I may walk across with like balloons here, balloons, and then just keep going.
I didn't cry.
Classic old-timey balloon salesman.
Hi at ex-Mormon wife.
At Mormon wife. They're all saying hi.
Who, just these two?
We're recording. What do you mean, who? Just these two? This is everything.
You said they're all.
They're all
two
saying
people.
hi.
It's not like
this is all that matters.
A handful of people.
There are no other people.
Oh gosh, it's an effing party in there now. Logan and
shoot, there's people here.
I didn't cry.
Smelly, your at Mormon wife is even more pedantic than my daughter. It's crazy. That was just 2. Isn't that just 2?
Yeah. I don't think she was commenting on grammar rules so much as the significance of you two.
No, that's not what even pedantic means, though. It's just like it's being overly fussy about little details. So that's a perfect example of being pedantic. Well, that's actually just two, so a couple of people said hi, not again. So anyway,
What's wrong with you? Don't talk trash.
She is. She's being.
I'm talking
she's
tons of
being
trash.
She's like Little Miss Polysyndeton. Basically.
Whatever.
You're ruining our episode. It's past midnight. What the freak is your...
Just ask her if I should send her sister $1 in the mail.
alone.
Just that's all you need to ask her. Can you please ask her?
No, I
should
love
send
her.
Emily
She's
West
great.
$1 in the mail to make up for that time that I didn't give it to her.
He wants to know if he should send your sister $1 in the mail. That's what he wants to ask you. I just taught her about our symbol. And
Oh man, the bathing suit.
Inglorious?
The bathing suit symbol.
So bad.
She was horrified, and she's like, I have to tell her about this. I said, no, you absolutely don't.
No.
Is that like
She would
better
not enjoy
or
that.
worse than lusting after your older? I don't know how to say this. It's not.
Or is it exactly the
Is
same
it exactly the same thing? I was just gonna say.
thing? Or is it exactly lusting after her older sister?
Ew.
No, I mean like how she
No,
was lusting
at Mormon
after
Wife,
you
good.
while you were lusting after her older sister. That's what I'm like referring to.
It was a very twisted triangle.
Well, look, this is normal though. Like I watch lots
That's
of games
also
of
my
Game
favorite
of Thrones.
section.
This is totally fine.
No, they don't.
Okay.
I love you, at Mormon Wife.
He says, I love you, at Mormon Wife. Do you want to give us a tweet-length review of Interstellar after having watched it tonight?
No.
At
I
non-denominational
didn't
wife.
cry.
Her review is, I didn't cry.
I have no emotion where Cameron has emotion.
But take his emotion where you can get it.
Thanks for
Love
having
cried.
me.
Enjoy mine.
I cried, right?
Logan, did
See you,
you
bud.
cry?
I didn't cry.
Oh my gosh.
Who's the
This is
dude in the
worst
poncho?
podcast.
Hey, we gotta go.
No, it's the best.
We're recording an episode right now.
Cool. I'm in it.
Oh, no.
Invest in Bitcoin.
No, don't talk
No,
about
don't
that.
tell anybody. She just ruined it. It's going to crash tomorrow.
I don't know.
I heard
Never released this
Dogecoin is
episode.
still going strong though, so
It is actually stupid.
All right, they're gone.
God, that was horrible.
All right, we're half an hour in and we haven't talked about Star Wars yet. This is the worst.
Never let that happen again. No poncho dudes coming on our podcast ever again. You wear that poncho, you're off.
Here's my no context review for my latest viewing of Interstellar. Prior to watching Interstellar yesterday, I did not believe in an afterlife. Now I basically do.
Thank you, Christopher Nolan.
Man, you've gone back and forth on that one a few times, haven't you?
Yeah, we need to talk about that after the episode because we got to get to Star Wars right now.
I don't really want to
All
talk
right,
about that.
That and more on the Boom. Have we done that yet? I can't.
Yeah, let's do it again.
I don't want to discuss any of your slides back into irrationality. No. Only tell me when you're being rational.
Shut your hole. It's not irrational.
It's totally
let's discuss Star
irrational.
Wars. Speaking of rationality.
Time for me to get irrational.
Star Wars is something palpable. You can palp it. So let's talk about that.
Yes, palp it.
So on December 15th, a little movie came out. Its name was The Last Jedi, Episode 8 of Star Wars. Those things should have been said in reverse order, but that's okay. Basically, what I would like to hear is Yoshi say 10 bad things about the movie first.
All right. It wasn't long enough, number one.
Good.
Number two, they didn't change Luke enough.
Its greatest weakness is that it didn't have any weaknesses.
Number
It was
three,
perfectionist.
it was a really good idea to do what they did with Rey's parents, but they could have gone farther. Number three, wait, no, I'm on to number 4 now. Number 4, there should have been more Laura Dern p***ing people off. Number 5, Poe's character should have made even more sense than he already did. Number 6, sorry, I can't do it anymore.
I meant top 5.
Number 6, why are bombs dropping out of bombing ships? Like there's gravity pulling them towards ships.
I have the officially retconned reason for that out of the visual guide to the Star Wars to Last Jedi.
Great.
Which is that those bombs are magnetized to attach to the Star Destroyers. They're not that they have a particular.
But they're not magnetized to the ships that they're falling out of?
No, they have a way of releasing them and dropping them so that basically all you need to know about that part is it's not gravity pulling the bombs down. It's some sort of attraction between the bombs and the ship. And also, my God, if that's what you're thinking about during that scene, I can't even discuss this movie with you. So,
Okay, Yoshi, in all serious I want to ask you, what are the things that people complain about this movie that bother you the most? Is that one of them? The gravity with the bombs?
no, that's just so silly. Like all the little things that people are complaining about, I can't even get that upset about. Like any complaints about the Canto Bite stuff, I'm just like, that was 8 minutes of screen time or something, and it moved Finn's character forward the way I thought it should have been moved forward or made sense to me. At the beginning of the movie, all he cares about is Rey. By the end of the movie, he doesn't care about anything except for saving the Resistance, so much so that he's willing to kill himself. Or sacrifice himself, I should say. So the big one that gets me is the Luke thing. That's the one I can't understand. People seem astounded that Luke is so different from what he was like in Return of the Jedi. Yet, how could it possibly be any different when we know from the very first line of the opening crawl of The Force Awakens that Luke has vanished? And we find out through the course of that film that the reason he's vanished is because he somehow failed in his training of Ben Solo, the son of his great friend and sister. He went into hiding because of his failure so obviously. He's a wrecked old man. He runs off like every other Jedi has done when they've failed, including Yoda and Obi-Wan. Nothing could make more sense than what Luke's character is like in The Last Jedi. And yet people are like, why is Luke a coward now? And the movie explains all this so well, and there's really nothing that I can't think of an alternate rendering of Luke that would have made sense given the context that we know he has disappeared. He vanished. He ghosted all the people from the OT that we love so much. So he must have been broken, destroyed, distraught. And that is exactly the character that we got. We got a massively flawed old man who is no longer the farm boy staring off at the twin sunsets of Tatooine. And we got a fully redemptive arc for him. Like, the Luke complaints are by far the most irksome to me because they make the most sense of anything out of the movie for me.
I loved Luke's character. I thought he was great. One question I do have is, why did he make a map of where he was?
Do we know that he made that map?
Or did the map were the coordinates somehow saved in the ship that he must have taken to the planet?
See,
I'll have to watch
there's
it again.
a lot of assumptions that I noticed are being thrown out too, like that one. Not that I'm not trying to drag you, Dogsdie, but a lot of assumptions like that, that was actually a comment.
It's all Polysyndeton.
Yeah, Polysyndeton, yeah. That's another thing. People assume all these things. Like, why did Luke... It's like, how do we know that Luke left that? I mean, we have no idea why any of this is left the way that it was. That wasn't explained. And that's another part about this. And I made a joking thread about that on Talking Ship, which was just like, people are like, literally everything in the movie they want a backstory explanation for. And one of my favorites about that is like, who's Snoke? Why don't we get to know more about Snoke? And I'm like, okay, so these are all people who worship the original trilogy. We knew nothing about the Emperor. Nothing. We knew the same amount about Snoke as we knew about the Emperor. And no one complained about that. After the prequels, we knew a lot about the Emperor. And Palpatine became the best character probably in the prequels, really. But this notion that everything has to be backward, explained in detail for this movie to make sense is just kind of bizarre to me, especially given that in Star Wars, we've always kind of accepted things, not having a full explanation. And can you imagine how much exposition there would have been in this movie if they explained every little thing that people are wondering about still? Like, how did Maz get the lightsaber? And just so many things. Like, I've seen complaints about literally every aspect of the movie saying they didn't explain it well enough. And I'm like, what? What do you really want to, that's why I made that thread where it's just like every question from The Last Jedi, a Star Wars story. Because they'll just fill it in with a bunch of movies, right? How Maz got the lightsaber, a Star Wars story, you know?
Okay, this does not need to end our Star Wars conversation, but I would love to do the fill-in-the-blanks Star Wars movie bracket. I'd love to do it. Should we do it later? Should we do it now?
The fill-in-the-blanks Star Wars movie, right?
Okay, so, like, if there were going to be movies, like what you mentioned, Yoshi, right?
Oh, I see. Like, what Star Wars stories do we want to see?
Yeah, I mean, we could pull from the thread on Talking Ship if you want to do that. I already made up a bunch of them, so unless you guys want to make some from scratch too.
Well, so I was going to say, and let's do that for the bracket, but let's do the bracket right before you have to go to bed. I was going to say, aside from Star Trek, I don't know that I can think of another franchise where people clamor for the kind of detail and plot recovery sort of backstory that people do for Star Wars. Is that accurate, or is there another one that I'm not remembering?
Maybe.
I mean, I wanted to say Harry Potter, but I've never...
Yeah, I was thinking Harry Potter,
But Harry Potter has so much explanation inside the books, which renders a lot of that kind of, like... J.K. Rowling is a singular voice there, and Star Wars is different. I mean, Star Wars is something that's had many different voices involved in the production of it. So it's not a singular beast created by one person. I mean, we gotta give George Lucas all the props for starting it out, but I mean, a lot of the reasons why Empire is so great has to do with the directing and the writing, which were not done by Lucas.
Right.
And same thing about Jedi, depending on your, obviously Jedi is the most controversial of the original trilogy, but I still think Jedi is a very fun, good Star Wars movie. But I think you're right.
I have a question. I think the part of the movie that I enjoyed the most was anything with Kylo and Rey. I just thought it was absolutely amazing. Smelly, do you agree with that?
100%.
So if you could improve the Rey and Kylo thing,
yeah,
how would you improve it? What else would you have done other than more of it?
I was going to say more topless Kylo. More.
Have you seen all
the Kylo Ren challenge?
Memes?
Oh yes.
Oh my
so
gosh.
Funny.
The
So
Lego one and yeah, it's so good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, more. I want deleted scenes. I want like them in a coffee shop. I want them playing tennis. I just want a lot of them. I want a whole Star Wars story on Kylo and Rey.
Oh, that's another big complaint that frustrates me is that, this whole like telepathy force hangouts, whatever they're calling it, like force time chats,
force Skyping.
they're like people are like, I don't like that. That's new. That's a new force power we haven't seen. And I'm like, really? Because it's not. Have you ever seen Empire Strikes Back?
You ever seen the first Star Wars?
Or the first Star Wars where Ben's a Force ghost, so I guess you could argue that that's different or something. But at the same time, we know that Jedi can communicate, and then obviously Snoke is super powerful, and he sets the whole thing up. So it's like...
Yeah, but we don't know where he comes from, Yoshi. So...
Good point. Well, and the whole thing, too, is that, like, every Star Wars movie pretty much introduces some new aspect of the Force. Like, how boring would it be if the first Star Wars movie, like, set out the rules of what the Force can do and then just said, nope, nothing past this? Like, every Star Wars movie, we get some sort of new thing.
Yeah, you can choke people, and you have really, really slow laser sword fights.
Exactly. Yeah, basically. So it's like... People are acting like introducing this was like a big deal, and it wasn't. It wasn't a big deal. It was just another thing we didn't know the Force could do. It's like Luke says to everyone, basically, when Luke's training Rey, that's basically him talking to the audience, saying like, what you thought you knew about the Force wasn't really that right. And interestingly, at least for me, I think that the way that Luke talks about the Force in this movie is the closest to the way that I viewed the Force based on the way that Yoda discussed it in Empire Strikes Back. I've always felt like his explanations of the Force are the best explanations, and that Luke was following in his footsteps there.
Yeah, he always seemed like the most credible source of Force explanations.
Yeah, and it's not bogged down in this whole like midichlorian thing or like specific powers that Jedis have. It's more about like as almost kind of close to cheesy as it was, the part when she kind of actually starts reaching out and sees life and death and good and evil, and there's those quick little shots of juxtaposing all those images. I thought that was really effective in like kind of explaining that the Force is truly the driving energy in the whole universe. And that goes right into Luke's arc about how he was overconfident and thought, oh, I'm the last Jedi Master left. I'm going to be able to train these guys and do this. But it was hubris to think, as he says many times in the movie, to think that he could do that. And you would assume a little bit that Luke might be kind of cocky after what happened at the events of Return of the Jedi, you know? Like, I mean, he managed to do all this stuff. Now, of course, people are complaining as well that if Luke was able to see the good in Vader, how dare he not be able to see the good in Kylo, you know? And that was an unforgivable moment or whatever. I see it much differently. I see it as like he saw Kylo as a huge danger, and was worried about what was going to happen with him. And for a second he thought, what if I just stopped Vader from ever being a thing? And he didn't do it, obviously, as we saw in the third flashback that explains it from like what was pretty clearly the true version of events from the Jedi Temple falling apart based on Kylo misunderstanding, which is very understandable if your uncle walks in with a lightsaber over your face. But it makes the whole thing complex and interesting. And it goes back to that whole point of view, because we see 3 different versions of that scene. Another thing that I think is brilliant about the movie. And when Luke faces down with Kylo at the end and he says, I failed you, Ben. It's like he's taking full responsibility, even though Leia in particular doesn't want to blame Luke, wants to keep blaming Snoke and say, no, Snoke got to him first. And Luke's like, no, it was me. I screwed up.
Right.
So I think that's a fantastic way for that character to go.
I agree. Dogsdie, speaking of the 3 visions, the 3 versions of that non-Ben Solo killing, which one do you buy?
Well, it's hard because, I mean, Luke didn't write any of those accounts down until like 12 to 18 years after. So I can't be sure that it actually happened in the first place. No, I buy the last one.
Yeah.
As an audience, we're supposed to buy the last one. Like, I'm shocked that people think that that's not the definitive one. It's like the way it was presented. It's like we're going to give you 2 fake outs. One that makes Luke look completely innocent. The second one makes him look completely guilty. The third one is the middle ground and makes the most sense for how everything could go the way that it went.
Now remind me, who narrates the middle one or the third one?
Luke. So there's that. I mean, this is like, but this is Luke actually admitting that he went in there and did this. So for Luke to even admit that tells me a lot. And this is like when Rey has beaten him down and has got her saber out and is like, I'm chopping you up unless you tell me the truth. And so I think that this is I think we're supposed to think this is the real version of events. I thought that was clear, because I've seen the movie 3 times, and every time I feel like that's more clearly obvious that we're supposed to think that's what happened.
Well, I do too, and I don't disagree that might be what the intent of the third, or you know, sort of the context surrounding all 3 of those accounts is. But to pull myself out of the Star Wars, where I was going to say, there's nothing necessarily in these movies that kind of sets us up to believe one versus the other. And then I thought, no, because Anakin has this whole monologue, or you know, while they're fighting on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith, you know, and he talks about, from my point of view, the Jedi are evil, and so this idea of sort of a person's perspective and how they view something, we were meant to understand and empathize with Anakin throughout his turn to the dark side, I think, during Revenge of the Sith. And I think it's really interesting to look at all 3 of these accounts and the differences between them. and to question whether any of them are really valid. And I'm not saying that's what he intended to do, but just from where I watched the movie, that's what seems interesting to me, is that, and it's consistent with what we know about how memory works now, is that it's not very good. And people's accounts of their experiences in the past are deeply flawed in a lot of cases, and really colored by their own perspective and what they want to believe about the past.
That's a good point. And that also goes with Obi-Wan's stuff in Return of the Jedi. That's, his infamous from a certain point of view.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Business. So it all ties together.
All right. Let me ask you this. Yoshi, you're up first. Worst acting performance in the movie. Who would you think?
I think it's Laura Dern. I mean, I normally like Laura Dern a lot. She felt tremendously out of place. I don't know if it's because I liked Big Little Lies so much that I can't stop thinking about her as that character. But even from the very first moment she was introduced, she just didn't seem to fit with the Star Wars universe, and I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
I don't hate the whole holdo plot like everybody does. Everybody being like the angry people on the internet. But I didn't. That's more like of a compliment to all the other actors, because I think pretty much everybody knocked it out of the park, aside from her. Like, I would have loved more Benicio del Toro, but what he did work with was just great. I mean, like, that's the whole thing, is like, people are like, oh, they wasted him. I'm like, the scenes he's in are excellent, and he's excellent in them. So we're going to have a whole Benicio del Toro Star Wars movie? Okay, but let's do that another time. Like, not every character, again, people want like a whole who's DJ? What happened with him? Like, it's like, he's just a plot device. He's not like a fully fleshed out character. Like, what do you want? You want every character in the movie to be fully fleshed out? It's freaking crazy. The movie would be 9 hours long.
Well, I will see your Laura Dern and agree with it. And I will raise you some of Poe's not girlfriend. Not Poe's girlfriend.
Finn's not girlfriend.
Finn's
Rose?
Not girlfriend. Rose, yes.
That's the one I was trying to go for. I did not like her as an actress.
I liked parts. Some of her scenes I thought she did great, and some of them I just didn't.
I want to punch my fist through the heart of this whole stupid town. Pretty faces.
Or whatever she said.
Well, I thought that was one of her better line deliveries. So I don't know. These things are very subjective. Just because it was,
well, it may just be a really bad line.
It might be, or it might be good. I thought it was good, and then when it literally happens later in the movie, I thought that was appropriate. I don't know. I pretty much love this movie, so it's hard for me to disagree with people who think this movie is going to age badly like the prequels have. Because the prequels were bad to begin with, and each time I saw the prequels in the theater, with Return of the Revenge of the Sith being the exception,
they got a little worse.
I had diminishing returns. I was like, I've seen The Last Jedi 3 times, and I think the third viewing was my favorite. And it's interesting because I would expect the opposite, but I just felt like I was getting more comfortable with it as like a Star Wars film. And, it goes along too with this notion that the film had too much humor in it, which is another one of my favorite complaints. And I think part of it was people weren't expecting it to start off with humor. And because the very first thing is basically Poe epically trolling Hux in a way that I love and will defend endlessly. And awesome. I don't care if people think that's bad humor. I thought it was great, and I still find it hilarious. But I don't know. For me, it's just like it's gotten better with subsequent viewings, not worse. And the little things that bothered me, like I like the Canto Bite parts now. And the first couple times I was like, I'm not sure if I like this stuff, but
I want everyone to see Dogsdie's face. Now
I see it as a means to an end for Finn's character arc, and I think it works really well. I enjoy the quick Justin Theroux cameo. I enjoy BB-8 being a boss.
I couldn't believe that was Justin Theroux.
Wasn't that great?
Justin Theroux? Who was he?
He was the code breaker they were supposed to find.
The actual code monkey.
Yeah. And he's like, not now, lovey.
That
I'm on a roll.
was Justin Theroux?
Uh-huh. It's great. He's got one line.
Yeah, he was
the Prime Minister of Canada?
No, not that. Not that Justin Theroux.
Oh, that's Justin Trudeau.
Trudeau, yeah.
Who's Justin Theroux?
Yeah.
From Leftovers.
Yeah, from The Leftovers. Yeah, and Jennifer Aniston's
that show that I'm supposed to
Main
watch.
Squeeze.
That show that you are supposed to watch. Yeah.
He's
Good
very
show.
very handsome man. I mean, he's no Poe, but he'll do.
He's exceedingly handsome. I will say this about Poe. I was really, really erect for Poe through all of The Force Awakens. And I was only moderately tumescent for him in this movie. I think because...
Just a little chub.
Yeah, just a little happy. Because he was such a pimp in the first movie, and in this movie he was neutered a little bit. And ultimately I don't have a problem with it because great. You do a thing with him. Do something different with him, that's fine. That's okay. But like from like the 5-year-old in me who loves watching a space cowboy just defy all the odds, he did it in the beginning of the movie and then kind of had to spend a lot of the movie not doing that and being kind of a hindrance to the rebellion, or to the, what are we calling them now? The Rick Resistance, yeah. So yeah, I mean, on a sheerly visceral childhood primal level, it was like, well, where did Poe go? Because he was awesome and then he was not for a long time. But it's an actual arc for a character, which is fine for me ultimately.
Yeah, that shot outside of Maz's place in the Force Awakens where Finn is shooting and the freaking
and Finn goes,
his X-wing's going
that's
everywhere.
One hell of a pilot, yeah.
And Finn's like, that's one hell of a pilot. And oh gosh, like that's the Poe that I remember.
Right. And did you feel like you didn't get enough of him in this movie, Dogsdie?
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, it doesn't bother me, but it left me wanting. Maybe. Josh, tell us why we're wrong. Yoshi.
I don't know that you guys are wrong about Poe. That's fine. I mean, like, that's not really a complaint as much of just like I mean, I guess it is a complaint, but then you want a different movie, right? Like, this movie can't be that, you know what I mean? Like, the movie can't be the movie that it is.
I'm not trying to say I want that in the movie. I'm just saying that I noticed that my reaction when I watched it was, I'm not as in love with Poe in this movie as I was in the first one, because I'm inherently in love with, like, the Sean Kemp of Starfighters. And he wasn't so much that in this movie as he was in the first movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's not as much of the hotshot flyboy, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, like, my thing about Oscar Isaac is that he has chemistry with everything. So it's like every scene that he's on in the movie, he's great. I just don't I don't need to see him doing specific things for me to enjoy his character. Like, I just find him to be so inherently engaging as an actor that, like, I like this whole pose out of sorts vibe. The one thing that kind of confused me, and now I'm being a nitpicker, was how the heck did Kylo get into their ship like the way that he did and blow up the entire hangar so easily and then get out right at the beginning when Poe's running to his ship? Like, that was just crazy. How, like, that was like a massive security oversight. However that happened, like
just leaving a whole hangar open and not shielded.
Yeah, let's just leave our hangar open and just, Kylo destroys everything in there. That was kind of silly. But again, like, I don't really get hung up on these things when I'm watching a Star Wars movie because it's a Star Wars. That's what happened. Like, it's almost like I watch them like they're documentaries. I'm like, well, that's what happened in that part. Kylo came and blew everything up. How did he do it? I don't know. He did it. It happened. It's in Star Wars.
All right, I have a weird question.
I love weird questions.
To which I have an answer, but I don't know if you'll be able to access one as quickly as I did in my brain, because my answer preceded the question. But here's the question. Was there a moment in the movie that exposed your Star Wars bias?
How about the very beginning when they started zooming in on the transports and I got in a big boner? Like, that's because there's no reason. There was nothing inherently super cool about that except for it reminded me of Empire Strikes Back. And I was just like, oh, here we go. Every moment, like, I can't think of a single moment that, like, exposes my Star Wars bias more or less. It's just like the whole thing is draped in Star Wars bias, so.
I've got two. One's positive and one's negative. I'll start with the negative. Leia's Mary Poppins moment. I saw it start to happen and I thought, oh, really? Is this what's happening? And I, like, kind of had a mildly negative reaction to it. And then I remembered, But this is Star Wars, so I'm cool with it. So like my bias covered the bases on that. Whatever I may not have liked about it, I was fine with it because it was in Star Wars. So that was sort of the negative version, but the positive version was the one scene that actually brought human tears to my eyes was when John Williams saw fit to bring back the original TIE Fighter music when Chewie dove the Millennium Falcon into that salt planet. That made me literally cry both times I've seen the movie, and that's just clearly, it almost doesn't matter what was happening on the screen.
John Williams is pretty brilliant
because that music came back.
Sarah teared up several times watching the film. I think the Carrie Fisher Mary Poppins moment was mitigated a little bit for me by the fact that I kind of thought, oh, that's how they got rid of her. Like that was my initial reaction. And so, and I think they could have done it in a way, I don't know, because like I vacillate between thinking that they did it the right way by making it this kind of strange, like ethereal angel floating back to the ship kind of moment versus like, what if it was just this huge like explosion of the Force that like sucked her back in? Would that have been more like palpable for people? Because I almost feel like part of it is like the actual visual of her like floating back. People have a big problem with that, despite all the other things we've seen in Star Wars. So
I didn't have an issue with it, to be frank.
You didn't? That's good.
To be Alan, I didn't either.
I know. I noticed that her skin started to turn, not unlike the skin of the people in Guardians of the Galaxy when they go out into the space.
Same universe.
Starts to brittle up. Yeah,
they're all the same universe, man.
I mean, maybe Star-Lord shows up and drags her back to the ship. Like, because that's on the table now.
Who the hell are you guys?
Licensing wise. Right.
See, I can make fun of other blockbuster series, but not Star Wars. Don't touch Star Wars.
Not Star Wars.
I'll break you.
Right.
Here's my question, and I don't think that there's any answer except for the right answer, which is my answer. What is the best part of the movie?
Oh, it's the throne room.
Yep. Specifically, what's the best part of that whole thing?
What's the best shot in the throne room?
Oh, I know what it is.
Oh man, for me,
it's you Smelly go. If it's not this one, you're right, Yoshi. If Smelly doesn't say what we are thinking, he's stupid.
This is like already the top 5 most iconic scenes for me in Star Wars.
We know the scene. You mean the most iconic shot?
The shot might be one of the most iconic.
The specific moment.
It's the one that gave me the strongest chills.
The longest boner? Is that what you said?
The strongest chills, close.
Chills. Oh, the strongest chills. Okay, well, it's probably the moment she forces him the lightsaber and he like bullets the guy through his head with the lightsaber for the final kill of the scene.
Yes.
Nope.
That's what I'm thinking. Yoshi?
That's not my favorite part anyways. I accept that as a really cool part.
Okay.
It's a great way to end that scene.
Let me
try again. It
really is. It's an excellent way. Okay, so my second shot was my first answer, where the long sort of tracking shot where they're back to back and fighting each wave on either side. I love that. And at one point, he gives her a little hip check with his backside to kind of aid her, and I just loved it so much.
The whole from Snoke narrating his own death to her shooting her arm up to catch the lightsaber as it comes flying back towards her, to the two of them standing up in slow motion to it moving into fast motion for them to fight. Just thinking about it makes me so happy. I want to watch it right now again. But that whole little sequence right there, that's it. I mean, everything from the fight scene is amazing. The part where Rey's kind of locked up and she drops the saber and catches it and slashes the guy, the Praetorian Guard.
That was neat.
That was great too.
I agree.
But I also noticed the third time that I watched it that there's some really interesting like fighting styles from all the different guards, but as well as watching Kylo's fighting style versus Rey's. And how Rey is a little bit reckless as well, whereas Kylo's a little bit more of like a brute strength kind of dude. But there are some moments in that fight scene where Rey's a little bit like what you'd expect her to be, undisciplined and kind of swinging her sword around a little bit too much.
Well, she's only got like 6 hours of training, right?
Exactly. She's definitely different, though. I mean, like, that's the whole thing, you know. I mean, that's what Luke says. You know, I've seen this raw strength once before, so that's why it's so perfect. But then what follows that is also like a second place for my favorite part is when he tells her, "You come from nothing. You're nothing. You're nobody." But not to me, or whatever he said.
Delivers it so
and he
well.
delivers it so well.
So
and
perfect.
then how it's so strangely heartbreaking when he asks her to join him, and then he says, "Please," afterwards. It's like, and she's like, "No." And people are like, "Well, they should have joined up." And I'm like, yeah, but the problem is Kylo's still talking about taking over the galaxy and ruling it together with Rey, just in the same way. It doesn't matter that he is not a Sith anymore or whatever.
Right?
He's basically making the same offer that Vader made, that Palpatine made.
Vader made to Luke.
Yeah, that Anakin made to Padme. You know, it's like, you can't, this is never the solution. Two strong Force users are going to rule the galaxy. We all know what that means. That means the Sith, even if he's renounced the Sith and he's claiming to say, we're destroying the Sith, everything's done. So I loved that moment because it was heartbreaking. I loved the follow-up moment after when they break the saber and Holdo does her jump to light speed maneuver, and Hux comes in and sees Kylo lying on the ground. And he reaches for his blaster. Then Kylo starts stirring, and he just puts it back really fast. Another underrated thing about this movie, in my opinion, is the development of the relationship between Kylo and Hux, which is just getting better and better. And by the end of the movie, it's just perfect. I want every gun on that man. More. And he's going crazy. And he's like, "Do you think you got him?" You know, it's just, I just love the interplay between the two, or like the Supreme Leader is dead, and then he starts choking him. Long live the Supreme Leader. You know, it's just, Hux is Domhnall Gleeson is such a great little weasel in that movie, and their relationship is fantastic. So
agreed.
Well, everyone, that's part 1 of a 4-part series about the Last Jedi. Download the BigRedBarel app to hear our bracket.
Liar.
Better tell him to download the Sarcastic Gamer app to hear that.
Yeah, you gotta download the
download
SG
the
app.
Talking Ship app so that you can hear Jitterbug talk about why this is the worst Star Wars movie since Episode 1.
Right.
No, for real though. People think that.
Oh man,
he doesn't.
No. Any final thoughts? I'm not even trying to hide how much I need to be in bed right now. And I know that I'm 2 hours behind you, Smelly.
Feel the same way.
It's going to be cold in the morning and rain's going to fall, so Georgia shut down the schools for tomorrow. So I'm good to go.
Are you serious?
Yeah, there might be some ice on the road. Funny story. Wow. Maybe this can be the funny story to end our episode. We ordered a pizza at my sister's house. My mom was there, and it was during like a snowstorm or whatever, an ice storm of some sort in the last couple of weeks. And the delivery guy came in the house, and we're paying for the pizza. And he goes, "By the way, just so that you guys know, up by the entrance to the subdivision, there's some black ice. And so just be careful, you know, if you're going to leave, just be careful."
So
there's some black ice
racist.
out there
So racist.
on the roads. And yeah, right. And so my mom heard him, and she went into my niece, and she goes, "Madison, why did he care that there were black guys up at the entrance to the subdivision? Why was that important information to us to have? Is he racist?" And she's like, "What are you talking about?" So now anytime there's black guys, there's black kids. Just be careful. There's some black guys.
Just be careful. There's black guys.
So there might be black guys out there.
Go Falcons, right? Am I right, though?
I've been a Falcons fan for my whole life. And it's now starting to pay. And a Bulldogs fan.
Oh, and the Lakers blew out the Hawks also tonight, so
everything's good. Everything's great.
Kuzma scored 90, I think.
Hey, Josh, what does Polysyndeton mean?
Polysyndeton is when it's kind of like how Hemingway writes sentences where you just keep saying "and" a lot. There were tanks and guns and hills, and it's like run-on sentences but used on purpose, basically.
It's like Eclipse by Pink Floyd.
Yeah,
that you touch,
yeah, and all that you see, and all that you, yeah, exactly. As opposed to Ascendenton, which is where you have no punctuation. So, for example, the famous example is Caesar saying, "I came, I saw, I conquered," right? Like, he should say, I came, I saw, and I conquered, right? But he gets rid of punctuation for that famous saying, so.
Right.
I always thought it should have been, I saw, I conquered, I came.
You're such a perv, man. Perv dogs.
Right? Isn't that
Gross.
funny?
So
I figure we
gross.
have some millennials listening.
Yeah.
Or 13-year-olds.
No way.
Maybe Nathan Hebert. Does Nathan Hebert listen?
It's a bear, and I hope sometimes he
Hebert.
does. We should have him on, and just so he can, because he's even more. No, not more. He's like equal to me in Star Wars blindness, so it's good.
I'd love to. He's one of my favorite internet friends.
Yeah, me too.
He's great.
Even though he's a real life friend.
He can take my spot on the next episode. Smelly, take us out.
The Big Red Barrel Boom. Don't make me leave like this, Murph. Don't make me leave, Murph, like this, Murph.
We'll see you next time.
Bye, I love you.
You and your ears are quite welcome.
For the podcasting goodness that you just heard.
Why not roll on over
To BigRedBarel.com.
for more podcasts?
News, reviews, and videos from the biggest, reddest site on the internet. BigRedBarel.com.